Hello, good morning, everyone. We're just waiting. It looks like participants are joining us rapidly, up to 40 already. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, afternoon, evening to all of you, wherever you may be. And a big welcome to each of you for joining us today for this Open Foris Arena user meeting and launch of Arena 2.0. While we're starting and while participants are joining us, please take a moment to introduce yourselves in the chat function. Kindly share with us your name, your location, and the organization or sector you represent today. I think it would also be nice to know if you are already using Open Foris in your work. My name is Rebecca Tavani. I'm a forestry officer working for FAO's Forestry Division within the Forest Monitoring and Data Platforms team, specifically working on national forest inventories and in situ forest data. I'll be your moderator this morning for this meeting and the launch of Arena 2.0. I've worked for FAO for many years, and since 2007, I've provided forest assessment and monitoring support to countries, specifically on their ground data collection efforts. So I've been around long enough to see the birth of Open Forests back in 2010, and it's been a real pleasure to see it evolve to the degree that it has. So I'm particularly pleased to be with you today and to hear from our panelists about the exciting developments and usage of Arena. Just a reminder for those who are joining us and have just joined us, please do introduce yourselves in the chat. And please share with us your name, your location, your organization, and if you are a user of Open Foris. I'd like to remind you that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and I encourage you to go ahead and post your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat box, as they come. In other words, there's no need to wait until the very end of this presentations to utilize that Q&A chat, okay? So this is a great opportunity to interact with all of those who've been using Arena, as well as those who are actively working on developing it. So please do take advantage of that Q&A chat. We'd like to also recognize the support from the UK government in these efforts, who are financing the maintenance and development of Open Foris Arena through the Aim for Forest program. And just after my opening, you will hear from Svenja Bonte, the RED Plus program manager and policy advisor to the UK Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. She will give a few minutes of welcome as well. Let's see what we have in store today by taking a look at the agenda. After myself and Svenja, we will hear 3 presentations all about Arena usage from our guest presenters, Ashley Lehman and Walter Cisingui, followed by Bruno Santer and Jos Bonomar. Following these use cases, we'll hear from the Open Foris Arena team, Stefano Ricci, Lauri Vesa, and Ramiro Blasquez Gonzalez, who will tell us all about the platform's new features in its version 2.0. So if you will allow me just a few housekeeping notes. Firstly, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded. The recording and presentations will be shared, and we encourage active participation. So don't hesitate to use the Q&A box if you have questions. And we have our experts online who will do their best to respond to these questions, either in real time or afterwards, if need be. A few words about our objectives this morning. The event is organized to gather Open Foris Arena users, developers, and people interested in hearing more about the usage and development of this tool. We especially want to open the floor for Arena users to showcase how they are using it. We'd also like to show you the latest developments and features within Open Foris Arena by launching version 2.0. We're really excited about this meeting and expect it to help us collect ideas and recommendations on how Arena users and the development team could collaborate more in the future. So we're looking forward in this session to sharing ideas and solutions and learn more about the projects that are using Open Foris Arena. And for those, just a few slides, for those joining us for the first time who don't know what Open Foris Arena is, just a quick slide here. Arena is a new open forest application that offers tools for storing, managing, and processing survey data. And Arena works in a secure cloud server. The advantages of Arena is that it enables collaboration and data sharing in a working group. It's easy to maintain, updates instantly, and is available for all users. And there's no need for per user installations. And just a quick snapshot of some of the application areas. Arena offers tools for collecting, hosting, and archiving forest monitoring data, particularly collected in multi-cycle forest inventories, botanical surveys, socioeconomic data, and any other survey data. It also allows for the processing of survey data integrated with R programming and language. Now, as mentioned, Arena development is supported by FAO's Aim for Forest program that seeks to improve national forest monitoring systems that are linked to domestic priorities and policies. The program addresses the need for robust data through accelerated deployment of technical solutions and novel learning approaches. So if Svenja is with us, I would like to pass the floor to her, she will tell you a bit more about the role of the UK government in this work, as well as the rationale behind its support. So I will stop sharing, and Svenja, please.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you. So I'm Svenja Bunter. I work for the UK government. I manage some of our RED Plus programs, including the Aim for Forest program. So very happy to be here today. So I work in the International Forest Unit, which is a team across the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, and the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, which was set up to support delivery of the UK government's international forest policy and ambitions, including the commitments from the COP26 in Glasgow. In April 2023, together with FAO, the UK launched the new Accelerating Innovative Monitoring for Forests program, the Aim for Forest program, which is a 24.5 million five-year program aiming to support, as Rebecca already said, the forest monitoring based on modern monitoring technologies and technical innovation using space data and remote sensing, as well as building technical capacity in forest countries and supporting the communities too. This funding is part of the UK's commitment to doubling UK international climate finance to at least 11.6 billion between April 2021 and 2026. This includes investing at least 3 billion international climate finance in solutions and projects that protect and restore nature. So Aim for Forest is a really important part of our RED Plus portfolio. We see the building the national forest monitoring systems and the delivery of high integrity RED Plus credits a key solution for forest countries to really generating that income from protecting forests. And Aim for Forest is especially there to address the kind of remaining technical and institutional gaps that within forest monitoring, as well as making sure that forest countries are able to embed their national forest monitoring systems. So really delighted that AIM is able to offer further support for open source tools such as Open Forests, which is already helping countries, and I can see in the chats that people have been using this already for a long time, to use survey data for advanced forest monitoring. And I'm especially pleased to be here today for the launch of the updated tool version 2.0. So we're really pleased that Aim for Forests has made these technical solutions possible and development of them and innovation of them possible to be implemented by FAO, and that these advances are continuing to support our colleagues in forest countries with their pursuits in national forest monitoring. So I will hand back over to the room, and I'm really excited for some of the sessions today and to learn a little bit more detail about how it's used by countries myself as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Svenja, for those words. And we're really pleased to have the support of the UK to allow us to continue to improve open forests. So thank you. And now to our featured panelists. Our first presentation, we have two presenters. Ashley Lehman is the Africa and Middle East Climate Change Program Specialist with the U.S. Forest Service International Programs. She is based in Anchorage, Alaska, so coming to us very late in the evening. And also she's joined by Dr. Walter Chisingui. He's the technical advisor of the Angola National Forest Inventory, supported under the United States Forest Service International Program. Walter joined USFS International Programs as technical advisor in Angola in February 2022, and he was previously a FAO consultant in Angola. Ashley and Walter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think Walter is going to start off the presentation. Do you want to share your screen, Walter?
Yes.
Excellent. We're starting to see some of them. Here we go.
Okay. Good morning. It's good to see you all, and thank you for to put this event together. Today we will talk about the experience of using Arena, Open Foris Arena in Angola. We started with using the program in February this year, more than 6 months now, and we learned a lot. And why we are using Arena in Angola? The presentation. Okay, now, no, okay. Because in 2022, the Forest Service international programs and the government of Angola signed an agreement, a cooperation agreement to manage the forest in Angola, the sustainable management of forests in Angola. And the Forest Service goal is to provide a technical support to the government of Angola, and this support go through the Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, and the IDF is the Angolan Institute for the Forest and Development. This partnership is between United States Forest Service and IDF. The goals, the IDF goals, or the government of Angola goals, are to see these main objectives in the forest sector: the productivity, the carbon sequestration, and the forest governance. And we are here to support these activities and ensure that the forests are well cared in our country. And to achieve these goals, we developed together a comprehensive tool, or a comprehensive design, plot design for the Kubango Basin, because at this time we decided to prioritize the Kubango Basin because the Angola government want to start there. This basin is important because it's part of the Casa region, Kavango, Zambezi Transborder Conservation Area, and we have few information related this forest in Kubango Basin. We decided to develop 213 clusters, permanent clusters that IDF will revisit each 10 years. And to develop these activities, we hired more than 30 students, technicians, to go to the field with us. We trained these technicians, training like first aid, safety, botany, field measurements. And during the 5 weeks, we developed these trainings in Kubango area in Angola. In March this year, we started the field activities. We started collecting data, and we finished this part of the data collection in October. The design is a L-shaped cluster with 5 plots and 5 nested plots, and we collected more than 9,000 trees during this period. The Open Foris Arena software was very key for these activities because it's flexible, it's easy to build the tool, and we learned a lot during this process. The design is we will see if in the future we will maintain this design with 5 plots, but we are learning, we are collecting information right now. I will pass to Ashley to talk about the arena, the survey design now.
Thanks, Walter. Yeah, thanks for getting a bit of an overview. If you could go to the next slide. Here's sort of a kind of an overview of the survey design. I liked the templates we used. Started with cloning template C, which helps with forest inventory. It was helpful in terms of just laying out the schema. We like Walter said, we used clustered sampling with nested subplots. And so it was helpful to follow the schema layout, but we ended up modifying a bunch of the entities and nodes to accommodate all of the different attributes for the forest inventory project in Angola. Some of the items that we wanted to include was attributes like accessibility. This was great because it allows the crews the opportunity to say if the accessing the cluster is going to be unsafe or not, or if it's going to be non-forest, non-measured, they can make that decision in the field, and then you can program, Arena to skip different attributes with this. Also, we've imported a CSV file of sample point data, which was helpful to export that from QGIS and include administrative units and values for cluster ID and provinces, GPS locations for the field teams to navigate to. And then this is updatable, so that was nice to include here. And then in the plot level data, the crews field teams can put a GPS location there at the actual location of the plot, and then can also input it to manually with higher precision GPS coordinates. Another thing that we incorporated was cluster level land use classes. We were able to put in different conditions of those land use classes. For example, if there was a forest management status on that land use class, or a disturbance or a fire, and we're able to know the fire year, we could put that at the higher level in the cluster level. And then at the plot level, we have land use class points. And at each point, we assign a land use class, and this allows for this to be used as a domain for the summary tables. And we also have tree species that can be assigned to the land use class point as well, allowing for an estimate of the area of that land use class of the plot. And so it was nice to be able to include this into the survey and make it easy to have a drop down and select the land use class at the cluster level. So other items, it was nice to be able to use some of the features like the Boolean nodes to be able to if there was presence of animals, either indirect signs or direct signs, then we could put in the different attributes for the different wildlife sightings, or we could turn them off if they weren't. So I felt like this allowed for a lot of efficiency in the field. Then other items we included were accessibility, like I said, at the plot level too, where both at the cluster level and plot level, because these are permanent plots, this allowed for a plot to be non-sampled. Safety was a big concern in the field and Angola due to a lot of landmines in this region. So we wanted to be able to, if the field teams could access one plot but not another plot, then we could have that accessibility noted. Other items, we had an entity table for trees, stumps, and references all included in the same entity, which was nice so that the field teams only had to move through the plot in a clockwise sweeps once assigning a reference tree or taking all of the tree attributes during that sweep. So yeah, and then Laurie also helped us figure out a way to automatically collect a start time, which was nice at the beginning, and then at the end of the plot, all of the plot attributes, this collected automatically again, which was helpful to not have to go back to the cluster level or the plot level. And then our survey also included 2 languages, both English and Portuguese, and Romero helped program the Arena mobile app to be able to also show Portuguese. So that's a little overview of our survey design. And Walter, if you wanted to give an update or an overview on the data cleansing process.
Yes, Ashley, thank you. Yeah, after spent 6 months on the field, the data is not ready to the analysis. We need to work hard. We need to clean the data because you have 5 teams, many people collecting data. You have mistakes. The people make mistakes. You have the people left blank space. You need to clean. And sometimes the people can't identify the species. They put unknown species or unlisted because sometimes we don't have all the species on the list, on the categories. In this part, Laurie helped a lot because we updated the category lists many times, maybe 8 or 7 or 9 times, because we are always find the new species. Okay, Laurie, we found new species, please update the list. And yeah, we are in progress. We didn't finish the data cleansing yet, but we are working on that to finish. Maybe next month we will be a cleaned database to send to the analysis files. We can find, okay, the big problems in the data cleansing are related with the unlisted and unknown species. But sometimes when we have 2 or 3 different land uses in the same clusters, and the people can change the real land use from 1 tree or 2 trees. And when you open the data, you see, oh, evergreen forest here. Why? This is a deciduous forest. What's the problem? Okay, you need to go there to the data again, check the data again. It's a process. And we are learning a lot with these 213 plots to find errors and warnings. Yeah, and this is the data cleansing activities. We are always working on the app, on the online app with the tablet, but sometimes we correct the data on the tablet. But we are exporting the data to CSV files to check on Excel. We are working interactively with the Arena Excel, Arena Mobile, and the Arena, the app, the main app, Arena main app. And yeah, that's it. It's always about giving and receiving feedback. You give feedback to the teams and receive feedback from the teams, and the work is in progress. Thank Thank you. Ashley, you can continue now.
Sure, yeah. We are at the beginning stages, I would say, of the data analysis because we're just finishing the cleansing and not all of it is clean. But so far, it has been pretty easy to use the Data Explorer option tool within Arena. It's been nice to be able to compile some pre-labeled queries, aggregating the results. And it seems pretty easy to export some CSV files into tables. I think this will be a really helpful tool for the government partners in Angola, especially as we put together a bunch of these pre-labeled queries. And yeah, I've created some calculated fields for biomass per hectare and basal area and stem volume all seem to be working, and found the RStudio server to work pretty well so far. Did have a minor error last week, but Laurie was very helpful to help me figure out what was wrong with the code and that I needed to respond to the pop-up warning. So far, and yeah, and I hope to use the statistical analysis tools when that is ready to be used. But otherwise, we will just export the data files into CSVs. So next slide. So yeah, I mean, so far we've, the huge benefit of working with Arena is that we've had very quick and very helpful support from the FAO team, Larry, Ramiro, Stefano. Yeah, it's been really nice to work with them, especially when we were dealing with lots of bugs and issues in the field in a remote area where we didn't have good cell service. But when we did, we were able to troubleshoot and get a quick answer and modify the survey quickly, which was really great. It was helpful when we were starting up the project between the three of them, they were able to troubleshoot an issue if one person was out. It was really nice. And I felt like the responses were helpful in a way that helped kind of identify how the issue was resolved or how it could be resolved. So I felt like it was a lot of learning for me and helpful to get that feedback. Yeah, and yeah, so far it's been a very easy to use platform. It seems very flexible, which is nice. When I've wanted to integrate something, it seems like it's fairly easy to do so far with support from the FAO team. So yeah, great data quality settings, which has helped decrease some of the errors. I like some of the efficiency ways you can increase efficiency in the field, by setting limits or pre-importing data, having some calculated fields, and has some good validations. In terms of challenges, with the two languages, and some of this might have already been resolved since we started this last year, but we did spend a lot of issues trying to load in the data with different language and having it sort of scramble with the different UTC symbols were scrambling the labels, and it kept causing a lot of confusion at time. We said, but I think that might be resolved. And yeah, we did experience a lot of bugs at the beginning with the mobile app, which did make some of the team sort of leery of using the app at the beginning and wanting to take data on paper. But I really think we learned a big lesson of just incorporating more time from testing the survey in the mobile app. I think we needed to have had budgeted a month rather than just a few weeks. So yeah, we had some bugs. There was an error bug that caused some lost data or like a freezing of the mobile app due to maybe some settings that I had in the validations that I didn't know about. So again, it was really helpful to have quick checks to figure out maybe what I did wrong to be able to fix that. Yeah, another issue, a challenge was that the teams found that the data entry was slower when they were not connected to the phone or internet. Volter had mentioned some issues with the tablets overheating while running the app. Yeah, initially we had some issues with people trying to operate this on their different phones with outdated operating systems. But we found it to be a lot easier to just have assigned tablets to each crew and keep the survey updated that way. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, again, I think lesson learned for us is, the more complicated the survey, more time we should budget for testing. Some suggestions might be just to have some helpful resources like videos of best practices for survey development. And maybe this already exists, but every time I had met with the FAO team and Larry, it was very helpful. I realized there was some simple tips or tricks that made it much more efficient. Yeah, it was helpful to have example expressions for the advanced functions and validations that had caused errors in the logic in the mobile app. It might be helpful to identify where which validations or which settings might cause issues. For example, if you have multiple keys or a constant default value that you need to select evaluate only once. These sort of things I just didn't know about that caused errors. But it might be helpful to just have all those for next time to make sure I avoid running into the same issue. Yeah, so I found I made many mistakes at the beginning, but I really graciously thankful for all of the support from the team. Yeah, I don't know if there is some existing taxonomy tables. This might be helpful too, to make sure we have the taxonomy correct, so we're not updating it as much. And then an added feature maybe to compare QA/QC plots at some point might also be helpful, but these are just some recommendations. And yeah, thank you very much thank you very much for all of the support.
Thank you very much, Walter and Ashley. I think it's super useful for us to hear this feedback. I really appreciate how straightforward you've been with us about your experiences, both positive and negative. So this is a learning experience, and we're very much interested to hear this sort of feedback in order to improve the tool. So thank you once more. And now let's move, because we are a little bit behind schedule. Let's move to Dr. Bruno Santer, who will talk to us about the application of Foris Arena for ecological restoration. Bruno is an associate lecturer at the University of Seychelles Island Biodiversity and Conservation Center. He's also affiliated with the Seychelles National Herbarium and the Université Libre de Bruxelles. He's a field biologist and originally from Belgium. His main focus is on the study of tropical ecosystems, on their biodiversity, dynamics, and evolution at both the species and the ecosystem level. He's been working on the mapping of terrestrial ecosystems, and we'd like to hear more from him. Bruno, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, good morning to everybody. You hear me well?
Perfectly, loud and clear.
Okay. So thanks a lot for inviting me to share our experience with Open Foris tools today. I'll try to share my slide and my slideshow. Okay, you should see my slideshow now, do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So just to add briefly on an introduction, I started, I discovered open Foris tools in early 2019. And that was when I actually first bought my first smartphone. And I searched tools that existed to capture data with the smartphone. And I tried a few and I came across Open Foris Collect. And very quickly, I decided that this was going to be my main tool, and it really made a huge difference for biodiversity data collection and species occurrences, ecosystems that I've been collecting. I basically multiplied by 10 the speed, the amount of data I was collecting before that on paper and Garmin GPS. So I used now Open Foris Collect and now Arena for other kinds of data, and I'm going to present something about ecological restoration. Oh, it's not moving.
I think
I
it might
can't.
take a little bit of time. The same thing happened to Walter, I think.
I'm trying to go to next page, but it's not.
Okay.
Uh,
This is wait seconds. If there's a problem, we can also share from our side. So
yeah,
let's
but should I stop share and try sharing again?
yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I had two windows open for my PowerPoint file. I don't know why, so maybe that's the reason. And
Okay, we can see it once more. We just try to
oh, you
change the
can
slide.
see.
We can see it now, the cover slide.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can you see it in a presentation mode?
Yes, we can see it in presentation mode. Do you want to try and move it forward, which seemed to be
It's working now.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, so just a brief introduction. This ecological restoration database was developed for work in Seychelles. So for those who don't know, Seychelles is a very small archipelago in the Indian Ocean. And it's kind of a unique archipelago because we are granitic islands at the same time mid-oceanic, very isolated, and basically stable for several tens of millions of years. So it's a unique configuration. As a consequence, the biodiversity is, we don't have a lot of species, but it's a unique biodiversity in the sense that we have endemic genera, even one endemic family for plants. And the map you see on the screen here shows you that a lot of the area of the main granitic islands have been affected by deforestation, mostly for building ships in the 18th century. So 12.5% of the islands, the main islands, remain still natural, so it was not cut or burned. And all the rest, which you see in the white coloring, is degraded lands. So either these are lands that have lost fertility and you have very poor soils without trees growing, or these are still forest but replaced with a lot of invasive species. So the unique biodiversity we have is now squeezed into these tiny pockets of natural vegetation, those blue areas. And it's too much pressure from the invasive species in the vast landscape to be sustainable in the long term. So we have to restore vast areas of those semi-natural landscapes, probably tens or hundreds of hectares. So how do we do ecological restoration for those degraded landscapes? Well, restoration ecology typically is a practical conservation activity. So the people who do that are practical actors, and not just in Seychelles, but generally, it doesn't easily go with data collection. The data are collected, but they are collected by individuals and used for not in database or for mostly for personal experience development. Now, the actual effects of all the work that is being done is to be expected decades after the actions. So it's important to understand that whenever we will know if the restoration methods done were successful or not, or eventually to even quantify that, will come a decade or more after we did the thing. And so it's extremely difficult because of the way data are being collected, which is informally by individual persons, not in big database. So it's extremely difficult to actually evaluate the cause and effects relationship. And so personal experience does develop, but the actual factual restoration knowledge remains weak. Now, in 2012, we started creating a database. At the time, we used Microsoft Access. We called it already EcoResto, that's the name of our database. And basically, it was designed to record basic restoration activity, which is when we clear invasive species, when we collect seeds, cuttings, so propagules, when we use those for propagation in nursery, and later on when we do in situ planting or even ex situ planting, and monitor those. So that was more than 10 years ago. And at the time, the data collection in the field was with papers and Garmin GPS, and then migration in Microsoft Access, extremely tedious, as you can imagine. Now, in 2019, as I said, I discovered smartphones and the use of Open Foris Collect. So we improved a little bit. Another general note is that I'm not a computer programmer or I'm field ecologist. So all what I'm showing here is how people that are mostly field oriented end up doing DIY solutions with those tools. So we used Open Foris Collect to collect the data with smartphone in the field. Much easier, much fewer mistakes. And then the data I migrated to a Dropbox, so a shared folder on Dropbox. And then there's a database manager who migrate this using Open Foris Collect desktop into the database in Access. And then we export back in Excel files or QGIS projects so that people can see the map on their computer or even back on their smartphone using a QField plugin. But it's still extremely not straightforward. The reason why we were not using Open Foris Collect all along is because of just at my level, it was difficult. I knew how to use Access. So it was easier to migrate the data from Open Foris Collect to Access and then put it in a format back to the users. Now, it was an improvement. We collected a lot of data that way. And in 2023, another project started. And at the time, I looked into ways to improve a bit. And I discovered about Open Foris Arena. I gave it a try, and it seems to be exactly what we needed because the schema now is we collect data with the smartphone. It migrates directly to a server, which we don't have to think about or care about. It's maintained by Open Foris. And the database manager is still needed, but only to pick up the data and put it in a format that users can see. And the way we wanted to do that is now using R and Shiny apps. I know in Arena you have the data compilation tool, but again, it was not so easy for me to use that. I found it easier to use R. And in addition, using R allowed to put that, I tried to learn how to make Shiny apps, and that allowed to put the data in a web page. And now we can even share it with the clients or the funders. So that's the reason why we basically have Arena as the main database, but then the data manipulations, we do it outside of Arena, and we put it back to the users using R and Shiny App. And again, I know that there are ways to use R within Arena, but yeah, at my level, it was just easier to do it externally. Now, to give you an idea of the structure of this EcoResto database, it's a very simple database because the database I did with Open Forest Collect for biodiversity, species occurrences, ecosystem descriptions is extremely complex compared to this one. And this one is on two levels. The root level describes restoration events. And on the left side of the slide, you can see what we mean by that. So propagule collections, seed bank elements, nursery propagation, in situ planting, etc. And at the lower level, we have the entities that you see to the right. The main one being the individual records, which is where we would take individual records for each plantings or each propagules being collected and so on. The others are less important. Now, this slide gives you a view of the R script. The R script, I used R Markdown because it's easier in R Markdown to, you can have a clearer structure in the script, at least at my level of a user. You can have, you see on the right, you have the titles and subtitles. You can structure your script. You can have chunks that you will never run that are some chunks that you will run each time, other chunks that you will not run. So it's a lot of work, of course, to use R, but at the same time, if we put the effort to understand it, it actually is completely verifiable, and we can improve it basically, even for people who are mostly field oriented. Now, this slide shows you an overview of the Shiny app, so the interactive web page that is generated out of the R script. I started using that only a couple of years ago, and I was very surprised by how you can actually create a web page out of R. Just write an R script. It compiles the data with all the fancy stuff you might want to put in, maps, image galleries, and it puts it in a web page. So of course, you still have to host the web page. So we have issues with the server we need to post that. I know there's also a free Shiny server, but it has limitations. But basically on this web page, you have the URL on the top left. It allows to navigate, to me, more easily through the database compared to the exploration tool of Arena. It allows also to monitor specific deliverables of a project. For example, the number of hectares we committed to restore and how much we are at some point. You can see maps. And also we included in the script a compilation of the data, because this is restoration data, into basically at this point, that's the single global database on restoration. It's called Global Restoration Project. And it's basically a global standard to put restoration data, but it's not so much raw data. These are already aggregated data. So the R script compiles our raw data and aggregates them into that format. So eventually we can also share our data with that project. And we can also display images. So using Shiny, you can have image galleries, which I found very practical. That's a view of the image gallery. And the system allows full traceability at the best. So you can also collect data that are more basic, but if you want to collect data that are complete with all the traceability, you can. And in this case, you see one of our endemic species, and you
Bruno, can you hear us? Maybe turn off your video if you can hear us. We can see that you're moving your mouse, which is nice.
Ah, ok. Quindi
Yeah,
solo
so
la
that's still
camera.
active.
Forse si toglie la camera.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we lost him.
Okay, unfortunately, we lost Bruno. I'm not certain how close to the end of his presentation we were. Laudy, do you know if he was nearly done? Because we are, oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
conclusion is-
Okay.
Yeah, it was nearly done. Yeah.
We're very close. Okay, there was conclusion. All right. Well, if he jumps on, we can allow
hello?
him because I think, yes, hi,
Hello?
Bruno, you're back with us.
Yeah,
Okay. Bruno,
there's a big rain who came here. I think I lost internet for that.
okay. We are behind schedule, so if you don't mind jumping to that conclusion slide, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so sorry for that. I cut my camera. I hope it helps. So the conclusion is this EcoRestor database allows us to collect raw data. It's quite flexible, and you can also collect data with full traceability, where when you plant a tree in the field, you know where you collected the seeds, basically, what you did with the plants in the nursery. And it's basically independent of paid resources. Arena is free, and computer programmers. The challenges, I'm going to detail a bit, but it really meets a lot of the comments that were done by Ashley. So we had a few bugs with images to upload images, and with errors. And this contributed to discourage some users. It's true, but the learning of the database itself is variable from one team to another, and that's a fact. And the challenge is also to be able to convince some users to do collect numerical data and not go back to pen and paper. And also to invest the time required to learn a tool, because every tool has a learning curve, and it does include solving bugs also. So that was also a recommendation I saw in Ashley's slideshow. Now, in our case, another challenge is that we still need a database manager to play with R and R Shiny, and that's not an easy thing to have. Not many people want to use R and R Shiny also. And in the perspective, I still hope we can maybe make a paper out of this project. We can try it in other geographic areas, not related to it can be applied anywhere. And the Shiny app, if you go have a look, just know that it's the beta version. Basically, it's 1.0 version. And I'd like to thank all colleagues. The work we've done is with trust at the beginning. In the last few years with PCA, was supported by the government of Seychelles, Franklinia, and especially thank you for Open Foris team, because likewise we had excellent support since the time I used Open Foris Collect. Thank you.
I'm learning a lot from this session, so thank you. And I think your comment also about R having to basically manipulate the data outside of the program, maybe we can spend time at the end and we talk about that. It's part of the, let's say, part of the plans for 2025. But that was useful to hear. Now moving on to our last user case, Dr. Jos Bonnemeyer will talk to us about the design of an Open Foris Arena format for vegetation survey in the Euregio Rhine Meuse. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Jos, you can correct me. He's with the Natural History Society in Limburg in the Netherlands. And he's a seasoned ecologist and remote sensing expert with extensive working experience with the United Nations and with FAO in particular. He's currently involved in a vegetation survey project in the Netherlands using Open Foris Arena, a platform he's been actively involved in testing. His work combines academic research with practical applications, benefiting scientific communities and also local conservation efforts. So, Jos, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, will it be shown as a video?
Yes.
Laurie?
It is better that you show it and speak over, please, because the sound may not come through.
The sound is not good?
No, your sound, you can speak over the presentation, please.
So I present through sharing?
Yes.
Yeah, you can share your own screen.
Okay, wait. Then I do it without sound. Let me see.
While Jos is trying to get that video up, I just want to remind everyone, please take advantage of the Q&A. Keep your questions rolling in. We find it very useful, so don't be shy.
Wait, here is the, yeah, here is still the presentation with sound, I see. Okay, I start this just.
That's okay, you can improvise, Jos. We'll see if the sound comes or not, or if you want to speak over it.
Yeah, oi. Do you see? No, you don't see it.
Yeah, we don't see anything,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
well, then I have to put it here. And then, wait, no, I have to do like this. 1 second.
Okay.
I
Jos, if there are
start.
any problems, we can also
Yeah.
get our people to share eventually.
There is no sound, so I read the text which I prepared. Good morning, people. So I present the design and the use of open forests for the vegetation survey in our home area. And it is a transboundary limestone area in the south of the Netherlands. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah. If you're trying to show something, if the slides aren't coming up or if the video, oh, here we go. I think our audiovisual colleagues have jumped on it. Thank you, audiovisual. So do you see that, Jos? Do you see your slides in front of you?
I'd like to introduce myself. In short,
Okay, please.
I work
Yes, perfect.
as a consultant in a number of longer and shorter missions with the UN and FAO in particular. After my introduction to Open Forests in 2015, we designed also a local vegetation survey in my hometown and region near Maastricht. From the start, we shared remarks and experiences with the individual OF programmers and through the Open Forests user forum. The study targets limestone biotopes with flora and fauna, plot inventory and analysis. Interesting for us is the polygon facility in preparation. Besides field entries with Arena Mobile, we recorded in particular secondary information through the desktop. It will be handy that validators can edit categories and species lists directly. Unknown species to be determined back home and unlisted species to be added to the lists. Regarding vegetation analysis, there are some very valuable external applications. So we used OpenForest mainly for building databases. TurboVec for standard classification, JUICE for local classification, and Symbiosis to learn about management options. An example of a database record is selected near Maastricht along the Meuse in Wallonie, Belgium, showing general biotope information such as date, ID, name, coordinates, type and subtypes, and further environmental factors and vegetation structure. Finally, an example of flora and fauna species lists, polygon coordinates, and photos. Unknown and unlisted species are entered with nicknames and scientific or vernacular names respectively, to be adjusted later on. Thanks for your attention. Questions are welcome.
Yes, you are muted.
So I hope you could hear it. The sound was not too strong. But so I listed several of the design parameters. It is also a simple structure of a cluster of a biotope with some detailed plot information about flora and fauna to be classified. And the classifications, as I explained, can be better done outside because there are very advanced classification programs which are very useful and valuable. So a very important recommendation is to use the very flexible open forest for data collection, but to have also a possibility to export data to other external applications and import also from external applications into open forest. Maybe you could see it, or otherwise it goes maybe a little bit too fast to read all the information at the side. But our experience are quite similar to the Angola project. And also partly I had also some questions with, we are planning to buy tablets for the field, and this overheating problem is also here, also with the smartphone. When I longer on a sunny day in the field, it becomes very hot after a while during a recording. Okay, other questions, maybe we do that later. Thank you.
All please, in the meeting, please put your questions for Jos and the other panelists in the Q&A. We are running behind schedules, but I want to thank all the panelists who have just presented to us on the use of Arena. We really appreciate your time and your feedback, especially on areas of improvement. So now we're going to shift to the FAO side and hear from our colleagues about developments in the platform and what's to come in 2025. So we will start with Mr. Stefano Ricci. He's an open forest developer in the FAO Forestry Division. And Stefano is a software engineer. He has over 14 years of experience as an open forest developer in Collect Mobile, and Arena. And he will walk us through some of the new features in Arena. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Becky. Sorry, hi, my name is Stefano Ricci. As Becky was saying, now I will go through the new features in Arena, but very quickly, I hope. Let's start with this. So these new features are accessible from the Arena user interface now. The first thing that I want to show you is this new function builder that we have in the expression builder. Basically, whenever you have an expression, I don't know if you see there.
Yeah, I think it's
This thing on top, I don't know how to add it.
Yeah, we can actually see that. So if you do you want to close it and share again?
I can try to, yes, stop sharing and sharing again.
Because it's
Sorry,
covering, yeah. There are just some technical difficulties here. We're going to reload Stefano's presentation. Yeah.
I don't know how to add the...
Maybe audio-visual colleagues, do you mind sharing again? And then Stefano, you can just say next when they go to the next slide. It might be more efficient. Is that okay, colleagues on the call? Thank you. Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so go next, please. So this new feature is related to the expression builder. It's a sort of function builder that simplifies writing expressions, complex expressions that you can use for default values, relevancy rules, validation rules, things like this. So go next, please. So when you have, for example, next, you have to define a validation rule or a default value. Instead of selecting just a variable or a constant value when you build the expression in the basic expression builder, you can select now function. And go next. When you select, sorry, previous one, please. No, okay, thanks. So when you select function, a drop-down will open with a list of possible functions that you can use. If you don't know the function, they are documented also in the Arena documentation that is online. But here we have a short description of the function, so you can try to have a look to the description and see if it fits your needs. And once you select the function, go next, please. Next, okay. Here you can select the parameters that you want to pass to the function just using some drop-downs. So the user in practice doesn't need to write the expression by himself because in some cases can be quite tedious, quite boring. Okay, so go next. This is another interesting feature that we have added to Arena. There is a possibility now in the survey to define these user extra properties. These are kind of extra properties similarly as in the category or in the taxonomy editor that can be used, that can be associated to each user invited to work on the survey. So this panel here is accessible from the info editor in the survey. So you should go to the dashboard and go to the survey info, and you should find this tab, user extra properties. Once you define these properties, now for each property you can specify only name and the type. It can be only text and numeric. Go next, please. So once you define these properties, if you go to the list of users associated to the survey, you will find a small gear button on the right. When you press that button, next please, you will have the possibility to specify some values for these properties associated to the user, and the properties are defined on the survey, as I was saying. So once you have assigned these values to each user and each property for each user, go next. What you can do is the possibility to use these properties in some, for example, default values or relevancy rules, validation rules, just using that function, user prop, and the name of the property. So you should be just a bit careful because this property depends on the user that is accessing the, creating the record or modifying the record. So just don't forget to mark this, when you apply this, for example, in a default value, don't forget to mark it as default value evaluated only one time, because otherwise that value can be overwritten with the value associated to the user that is reading the record at the moment. Okay, so just that. This, I think that the user props open to several many features, because you can enable part of the survey depending on the user that is creating the record. For example, you can assign default values. For example, you don't want to every time to allow the user to select which team is working with on a survey. So you can do it in this way, in an automatic way. Once you have assigned the team, for example, a property that's called team to the user, that field will be automatically filled in the field. Okay, go next, please. Next. Thanks. And for example, you can also use this function in the items filter expression. If you want, for example, to have only some items visible to the user, depending on the properties assigned to the user. For example, the count. Okay, go next, please. Fast. Items filter, as I was saying, just don't forget to define the same property also in the sample point data. For example, the country, so you can match country that you property with the user property. Next, please. Okay, this is another feature that we have added to Arena. It's another type of attribute that is sort of geospatial attribute that you can select among the type of attributes. And you can use that attribute now to generate a polygon. So for example, if you have a list of coordinate values or an entity with a location attribute, there is a coordinate attribute, you can use that set of coordinates to generate a polygon and show this polygon on a map. Go next. So this is the expression that you will have to write. There is a geopolygon, and as parameter it takes a list of coordinates that can come from a multiple entity, an attribute defined in a multiple entity, or a list of coordinates. And go next. So, for example, here I'm using it as in a read-only attribute, and I'm reading the coordinates that I've written in the reference points. With that coordinates, I generate the polygon, and I can see it on the map. You can also download the generated polygon. Now it's in JSON format. In the future, it will be KML. We will add other formats. And if the attribute is not read-only, you have the possibility to upload a GeoJSON from an external file. and see the polygon. You can also see the same polygon on the map tool that is under data. Map. Okay, go next, please. I think it's almost done. Another feature, okay, was this possibility to see all the nodes when you are in the form designer. Instead of seeing only the pages, now you can switch to this mode, all nodes, where you have a full tree of all the attributes that you have defined. It gives you more an idea of the hierarchical structure of the survey. You can use it to check, for example, what are the key attributes that you have defined in every entity, and that's it. Next, I think we have done. Next, please. Thank you, everyone. I'm done with my work.
That's great. We've caught up with some time here thanks to that presentation. I think it's also going to probably raise some questions too. So please keep your questions coming in the Q&A chat, not in the regular chat, please. There's no such thing as a stupid question, so please feel free to take advantage of that while the speakers are speaking. So thank you, Stefano. That was great. Next up, we have Mr. Lauri Vesa. He's a long-standing senior consultant and forest inventory expert with the FAO Forestry Division. And Lauri brings with him 15 years of support to forest inventories, particularly national forest inventories in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific region. He is the technical lead of the Open Foris Arena platform. And Lauri works and lives in Finland. He's joining us from Finland. So Lauri, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Becky. You see my screen? Well, I hope so. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. And I'm going briefly a presentation about Arena for data processing and analytics. I'm always telling to people that learning this will take at least a week, but I try to do it in 10-15 minutes so that you can get the idea that what is this about in Arena. There were already talks about some processing part in Ashley talked and Bruno talked about that, but I will then handle that part, how it is built into Arena. All right. So chains in Arena are under the chains section, and we can use chains that contain R scripts. So somebody has to write these R scripts, and all this programming is done outside of Arena. It's done in RStudio, but these R scripts are then copied into the R server. So Arena server is hosting these scripts, and these chains can be created for computing results, for example, for forest inventories, and this can be created also for specific purposes, for example, for printing graphics, printing field forms, exporting data into data dashboards or into GIS. And these are three different outcomes from R scripts. This field form that you see here, it is created with R script. And it is meant to be helpful for the permanent sample plot assessment, where we get the previous assessment data pre-filled into the field form, and then there is empty spaces for filling in the field for those who are paper lovers. But of course, this can be in parallel with the mobile device as well. And then there are graphics just made with R, some tree height modeling, and also the third image is accuracy or of different tree height models comparisons. So we can do whatever we want with R, also with those R scripts that are associated to Arena. This is one typical Arena chain for forest inventory case. So it is about computing the result attributes like biomasses, carbon for trees, but we have other entities as well in forest inventories. We have stumps, we have bamboo, we may have dead wood, regeneration, etc. So that each of these lines that you see here, they contain then R scripts that are computing this particular result attribute for each single entity. So it means that we are computing biomass for each individual tree and stumps, etc., whatever we have in our calculation chain. This is a hard part to do. But what is R? For those who are totally unaware what is R, it looks like this. It's a script language, and it takes some time to learn it. But what we usually do now in our projects, we are recirculating some of the R scripts from country to country because they are mostly the same. So that's why I can, in some cases, send some pieces of my R scripts to some of the Arena users, and they can reuse it for their projects as well. In chain, we have a specific feature which is called sampling design, and only one chain in the can contain a sampling design, and this means that it allows to set scripts for sampling areas, for example, for nested sample plot design. And we can, for example, then define area of each sample. And Arena creates automatically an R script, piece of R script, which will compute the results per area unit. When we first set the rule what is the area, and then we set the rule how to compute the volume or biomass, these per hectare results are computed automatically. And this sampling design setting allows to set in Arena user interface the sampling strategy, which can be that we apply non-stratified or stratified sampling, clustered or not clustered sampling. And this clustering is a statistical clustering. It's not that plots are just in clusters, but it means that they are clumped in the computing together. And then we can apply weighted or non-weighted method so that plots can get the equal weight or they are weighted, for example, by the area. And what this also allows, this sampling design, is that we can apply statistical analysis script, which is I will show in the next slide. This statistical analysis script is something that we are now investing our time and energy. It's not ready yet, but this is let's put it in that way, that it is the first attempt to get the statistical results out, and it somehow simulates the good old Saiku method, but it's not a replicant for that. But we select the entity to report, and then we select the dimensions to report, and we can get the results for all our area-based result attributes. This script is publicly available in our GitHub folder, so that those who are interested to study it, you can get access to that script as well. What it does, this R script, it computes tables for every single entity in the chain. So if you have trees, bamboos, stumps, it will compute a separate table for those. You see here on the right side example of these table names. And it computes the totals for all area-based result attributes across all combinations of categorical, taxonomic, and Boolean attributes in the data. So it means that it goes, if you have multiple tree species in one plot, it computes all combinations of tree species across all categorical attributes of that tree into that table. And this table also contains area expansion factors, key attributes, and those base units or samples which have no data for that entity. And why we do this table is that then we can make queries into this table, and we can compute results per hectare or total area for every combination in our input data. We can make a query that what is the mean volume of healthy trees in the certain province in certain forest type, because it is there already computed into that table. These scripts can also compute the results for the base units, which can be sample plots. Then if it's a clustered sampling, it can compute results for cluster level and results for selected dimensions. This colorful table here is an example where we have 3 dimensions: promise, stratum, tree health, and then we have the mean of number of trees per hectare, standard deviation, variance, confidence intervals, and then we have rest of the variables that are in the chain: basal area, volume, biomasses. And also it can compute the results for the total inventory area. Okay, this is the work that we are investing our time, and what we are planning to do in 2025 is that this table, which contains this all combinations, we will build a new query tool to query the results of the computed data. And then we are also improving the methods for two-phase sampling. We have currently R script for computing the areas for two-phase sampling, but not really the results for two-phase sampling. And also new templates with examples of R script so that it will be easier to start using this part of Arena in the user projects. Okay, this is all what I wanted to show you. Thanks for your attention. Over to you, Peggy.
So many developments. This sounds great, especially considering that data analysis is typically, the most complex aspect of the forest inventories usually. So this improved functionality is great to see. And it sounds like it addresses the issue that was raised earlier, at least partially, of needing to go outside of Arena to manipulate the data. This is what we're trying to address, is what I hear from your presentation. So thank you for that. So next up, we have our colleague Ramiro Velasquez Gonzalez, who will provide us with updates on Arena Mobile. Ramiro is an open forest developer within the forestry division, and he has over 4 years history as an Arena Mobile developer. He's an expert in front and back end technologies, mobile applications, and in training countries in the use of these tools. And he's carried out these trainings in Ghana, Mexico, and more on the pipeline in Latin America in 2025. And he's coming to us from Spain. Ramiro, the floor is yours, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
And can you see my screen, no?
Yes.
So I have the challenge to get your attention after 1 hour and a half talking about our species and other things. So sorry, because there are a lot of numbers on the presentation. And I like to start with this presentation with this number, which is 341, which is the number of users at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, we have more than 1,500 users. So that means that in Arena Mobile, we grow 4.5 times during the year. So thank you for all of you for trust on us and use our solutions. And we are covering more than 90 countries. And this is the list of countries. So if you are not in this list, please let us know, because we have to solve that. And yeah, I like to start talking about the new features. And during the last year, the 2024, we released like 23 new versions in production in Arena Mobile, which means that we released 1 version every 2 weeks with new features or improvements. The new improvements or enhancements counts in 130. There is a big list, but I like to highlight the following. We allow the users to download the records from the server. So that means that you, as you ask in the questions, we allow the possibility to download a previous record to do like a remeasurement of that or collect data again on the same place. And at this moment, we allow to download many records, but in the future plans, we should allow to download only 1 record or the records that we like based on some criteria. We also improved the navigation between the form. There was like many ways to navigate, and then we consolidate the navigation based on the feedback of the users. And also, we improved the design of the home, which is the main screen. Before there was more information, and now there is less information. Like we improved that in order to be more like directed. Also, we improved the way that we saw and use taxonomies, categories, expressions, and other things in the application, as well as the expressions that Stefano was showing before. And also, we allow the way to navigate using Maps.me, which is an external tool to navigate through some place in an offline way. We also add ways to back up the information on different ways, like external storage inside of the same phone, also export a zip file. And also, one thing that is in the last list, part of the list, allow the users to upload the records one by one. Because before, we upload all of the records in one chunk. But after some trial, we discovered that there's some places with a lot of instability when you upload the data. So decided to allow the users to upload the records one by one. We also improved the way that we see the multiple entities, which is like the part of the form with the trees, with plus, and these kind of things, and also improve the way that we capture the geolocalization. Also, as Ashley said, we added 3 new languages during the 2024. We added French, Portuguese, and German. And there was a question about which languages do we like to add, and this is my question to you. Which languages should we add? So please, if you can put your language on the chat, it's more than welcome. So with these 5 languages, we are covering now the 96% of the users, but there is still a room for improvement. For example, Italian, Czech, I saw Catalan, and other languages. So in the next years, I hope that we can allow that in order to improve for local communities the system. And again, we launched 130 improvements, but I like to highlight the following one, which is the Open Foris Arena mobile monitoring, which is a data analysis system to improve the user experience and remote assistance. And for example, Ashley and Walter shared many problems, and with this solution, we solve these kind of problems. For example, we can know how many users per country are using the system in real time. So with that, we can allow and help you to improve the experience on the system. And again, we can discover some problems. The problems that Walter or Ashley shared, many of the times were related to there was a different version in the mobile and different version of the survey on the server, and there was the synchronization, and the categories and the ITs in the taxonomies are not synchronized, and this causes some problems when the data is synchronized or the data is collected between different versions of the same survey. So we also improve the way that we update the value on the form, and we improved this by 17 times. There was some peaks in the updates of the values due to some internal configurations that took like 2-3 seconds, and now is 150 milliseconds. So with this solution, we can know that every time that someone changes something in the form, how much time it's taken by the phone to change this value on the survey. So now we can see that in Android, the changes of the values is around 100 or 150 milliseconds, and in iOS is 50 milliseconds. So with these solutions, we can improve your user experience and know how it's performing the system in real time in order to improve the user experience of Open Foris Arena Mobile. And here's time for a demo, but I think that is not too much time because we are out of time. So let's jump for the next, because it's just like show the application and we can show later. But I'd like to highlight the mission that we have in Open Foris Arena Mobile. And it's something that Walter and Ashley remember us, because it's really important to ensure the quality of the data. So our mission is to provide solutions to efficiently collect the maximum amount of valuable data with the best quality. So let's put some stats about this quality the last year in 2024. And to do that, I took all the data that is in Arena during the 2024 and remove internal users. That means like Lauri, Stefano, me, and Falconi. And we have 939 surveys in Arena with one service that has records are 195. So that means we have 97% of the users of Arena Mobile are creating 190 surveys. So 97 of the surveys are using Foris Arena Mobile. And there are 5,500 records collected during the 2024 with 143 users collecting data. And using Foris Arena Mobile is the 83% of this data. And do you know what is the meaning of this number? Because I put a lot of numbers. This is the number of records that contains some error collected using Foris Arena Mobile. And is that good? If we compare with another channels to produce data in Foris Arena, we can see that other channels create 24% of the records with errors. So that means that Foris Arena Mobile is performing 10 times better to collect good quality data in Arena. So I hope that this is useful for you. And if you are not using Foris Arena Mobile or Arena, just put a message there and we are here to help you for the next year. Thank you.
These sort of figures to let us know, that the public is actually utilizing this tool and appreciating its functionality, and that there are a reduction in errors. Thank you so much for that. And now we are nearly on time, so that's great. We've moved to the question and answer moment. And if you haven't already sent in your question, please take the time to do so, because now is the time. And let's see, we have some that have been already answered in writing and others that are open. And I thought that we could also start with, there's a series of questions that maybe Stefano can address. They were already answered, but I think these are common questions that we get that I think are important to be answered. So there was a question by Lutz about whether Arena is considering a user case of remeasurements and permanent inventories. And then as a follow-up to that, and I think Stefano already answered that, but it would be good, Stefano, if you could take that on live. And then there was Zacharias's question on sensitivity of data being saved on the server. And a related question on controlling access, who owns the data. So maybe Stefano, you can talk about these few things. First of all, the repeat inventories and the potential for Arena to host repeat inventory data, please.
Okay, so this is a question that Lutz raised in the question and answer. So as I was saying to Lutz, now in Arena Mobile we have the possibility to download records and continue modifying these records, but we don't have real support for multi-cycle surveys in Arena Mobile. Instead, if you need to do some kind of experiment with this, I was suggesting you to try it in Arena Mobile experiments, at least to have some feedback about this feature. Because with that one, you can download specific records and you can also see the values that were collected in a previous cycle into the new record that you're filling with the current cycle, basically. So in order to do this, first you need to modify your survey and make it multi-cycle and define attributes that are specific to one cycle instead of another, and then you can use the mobile applications.
Great, yeah, and then there was Zacharias's question on sensitivity of the data. So some countries are concerned that, if it's in a cloud, it's stored somewhere here in Europe or North America. And that's a very legitimate question about, is the opportunity to have data locally?
This is, yes, a concern that is related to many countries. In case you have these kind of concerns, you can install Arena in your own server. As I was saying, there is I sent a link in the question and answer form where you can read the documentation how to install it in your own server. But if you want, if you need, we can contact you privately in your private email address, and we can help you to configure it in the best way possible. Okay. Maybe if you want, you can also open a question in the support forum. We can discuss it there if it's something that can be interesting to other users.
Okay. And to access that support forum, can you share in the chat some sort of link so people can get there and
Yes.
and
I
follow
will
up
send
some of
it
these questions?
to the chat.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Let's see. There's also quite a few really good questions. I see Becca Koberidze thanks the Open Forest team and Stefan for a great job. Good help they provided during the Georgian NFI. So these questions, I think, are also something that are wider questions, probably amongst others. And Becca says, we've spent a lot of time studying collect and calc, and now we are slowly starting to study Arena. Should we expect a similar switch from Arena to another program? And then in order to install Arena locally, we need permission from our IT. We have started this process to get permission. In case they do not allow us to install locally, is it possible to increase the 10 gigabyte limit, even if it's paid? So you also indicated you would like to answer that question.
Yes. Becca, as I was about to answer, we don't have any plan to switch to another program at the moment, but you never know, maybe in 10 years, because what happened to Collect was this, that after developing Collect for more than 10 years, we realized that it was easier to just build a new tool completely from scratch, because Collect has been was started with a different technology. It was difficult to continue to maintain it. It's still difficult to maintain it, I have to say. So it's easier to, in some cases, to switch to something new, something more fresh, than to migrate the existing tool to another technology or another platform or whatever. So at the moment, we don't have any plan to switch to another program, but I cannot answer you in. I cannot be sure 100% that in 10 years we won't have another tool. But the good thing in Arena is that at least if your data collected will collect and still being collected, you can import it easily into Arena. So the migration will be more or less painless. Okay, and the other one, installation of Arena. So you don't have the permission to install it locally. But you want to increase the limit. Yes, we can increase the limit. It depends on how much we want to increase this limit. Because we are paying for the resources of the server, the space there that you can use to store images. But if this increase is not so big, you can contact us privately and we can arrange something for you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. Yeah, and regarding the switch to potential other program, it's always here at FAO, it's always a balance between making certain we don't change too quickly and confuse countries and users, but yet at the same time wanting to improve what we're doing. So it's always a bit of a fine line. I'm just going to scroll down here under Becca's question. We have Ola Luda, who asks, Lauri, if you're ready for this question, what about the improved ways on calculating emission factors from NFI plots or sums for cluster level? Another is NFI for natural forest and logging concessions so that we also get data within near or existing commercial logging sites. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is there going to be a emission factor button eventually that one can just push?
First of all, I think this is not a survey issue. This is a sampling issue. So that how you design your samples, so that you are really collecting data from those sites, and the method of computing results for plot level or for forest type level or treatment type level is quite similar to from site to site, so that we can apply the same biomass models for trees. So I do not see here a difference from the computational point of view. over to you.
Okay, thank you, Lauri. Then we have a question from Brenda. Hi, Brenda from the Ugandan NFA. And she says, I wanted to request, if possible, for Stefano and Lauri to send us test assignments, exercises, which we can try on our own in Arena, and then we can ask questions or clarification where we find challenges. That also links to, I think, the conclusions from Walter and Ashley. They had mentioned examples as useful. So do you see, some of the recommendations that have been mentioned, including, this tests and case studies, examples, that's something that they can expect to see in 2025? Is that in the work plan for Arena coming up? Could it be?
Do you mean like test surveys or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Of course, internally, Stefano, I, and Ramiro, we are playing with a lot of test data, but it's very much fake data with containing a lot of issues, so that it is possible that we share those, but it may not have. Okay, it can be a good starting point so that you don't have to populate first the data and then start playing with the analytics. So, of course, we can share for our templates, so that we share, in addition to templates, we share data to the templates so that you can populate it with pre-filled fake data. Good idea.
Yeah, and this is something that our colleague Gal Sola has started working on. Also, is creating a sort of dummy data set, pulling from a number of countries. And we could always use that data. That is, it's a mix, so one cannot actually, tie the data to an X and Y coordinate. So that's another idea, is that we could pick that back up and have that sort of data set as a sample. Data set. So, panelists, if there's burning questions that you wish to address, please just let me know, because I've just been scrolling down. Is there anything that in particular you want to answer in person, live? Okay, if not, there's another question that I think just came in. This is another demo question. Is it possible to send or share a demo on how the files are downloaded and uploaded via the internet server? At the time I was introduced to Arena, I didn't see an option to sync data in this manner, which was a drawback for my team because we're using an Esri survey tool that allowed us to sync data without having to physically take the mobile device to the computer to upload the CSV file. Stefano or Lauri, are you able to answer that?
Ramiro, because
Or
it's
Ramiro?
related to the mobile app. I don't know if this question is this one from Far Beyond or that. If it's related to the mobile app, if you have internet connection, you can send it without connecting the device to the computer. So we did the first question to this.
Yeah, Fabian.
Ramiro,
I can answer this question. To upload the data to the server, there are three methods. There is some echo. If you can remove the audio in the room. There are three methods. The first method is to just press synchronize with the server. In that case, we compare what is the status on the server and the mobile device, and those records that are not synchronized with the server, then you can upload them to the server. And the second method is that you can export all the data in a zip file and then store in your local device and then upload to the server using the Arena server. And the other one is upload just one record by record. So there is not any problem to upload the data using zip file, but there is no way to use CSV to export from the device or to import into the device, because the data is not stored in CSV internally, because it's a complex database and CSV is flat, and in that way, manage the data is not possible. So I don't know if that answered your question. If not, please ask more, because I'm sure about if I answered your question. And I think that is another question related with the overheating, which is something that two people remarks before. And the good news is it's a problem, and the good news is that we isolated that a couple of weeks ago, and the team is working on that. And let me share the screen 1 second more, because yeah, the problem is related when there is a new tree created on the survey. In this process, there are 4 steps. The first step is put the loading on the screen, which is like this loading. The second is other computation, which is like fetch the data on the trees to make validations or other things. And then this red part is a computation that happens to create this new tree and all the nodes related with that. And then the latest step is this blue line, which is all the loading that you remove when you finish this process. So on the right side, with so many charts, so it's easy to understand. On the vertical axis is the time the time that is required to compute every of these bugs. And on the horizontal axis is the number of trees that we already have on the system. So as you can see, the blue line, the green line, and the yellow line are linear. So there is no importance in the number of trees that are on the system. And the problem happens on the red line that grows in exponential way. So the good thing is that we isolated that. And the bad thing is that this module and this red box is around all of the products of Open Foris Arena, in the web platform, in the backend, and in the applications, because it's related to Arena core module, which is like an internal module, which is on the web platform and the backend platform. So I hope that the team solve that soon, because it's affected to everything. And with that, all of the problems of overheating should be solved. At least that you are in the desert, 60 degrees, because there is impossible. But yeah, I hope this clarified that. Just to remark, it's affecting all the systems, and it's inside of the Arena core module, and we have to fix that, and the team is working on that. So thank you.
There's another question that I think you said you would like to answer, and it's regarding, there's a question from Saitha Cyril. In a condition that I published questionnaire survey, after taking some entries of the survey from the field, if I modify the questionnaire and publish it again, would it delete all the previous data collected? Ramiro, I think you said you wanted to address that, but I think the answer is no, that it wouldn't, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, this is something that I answered before. There was like, where there is a different version between the survey in the server and the survey in the device, there could be some problems. And as I shared before, there was some situation, for example, that we had a list of taxonomies, and then we added new taxonomies or remove older taxonomies, and then the user entered in the form and tried to open the form, and the form tried to find the taxonomies that were deleted on the server after the synchronization. So every time that we update the survey version or update the list of taxonomies or categories or all the data in the survey, we have to take care of everything that we remove, because we can remove something that is related to another validation or another expression or another thing that could be broken in another part. So the answer is that you have the possibility to update or upgrade your survey. You have to publish again, but you have to be really careful about the things that you change, because it can broke everything later. So maybe we have to provide guidelines on top of that, or help the users to avoid this kind of future problems, because this causes a lot of noise during the last year with some versions. So yeah, this is a big issue if we don't have care, but it is possible to upgrade the survey. And our recommendation is develop the survey, do some testing with the survey, and when you're happy with your version, just release this version and trust on this version all the cycle.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ramiro. We're getting some really good material, I think, for maybe some short tutorials in 2025. There's a lot of good questions here that I think will help guide on the sort of training material and the sort of reinforcement that might be needed. And that can be done probably in some quick videos. There was also a question, I think Falconi had responded to it. And I think this is something also internally here at Avail we were asking ourselves earlier this year. But I know that Collect Server and Collect Mobile will not longer to support, but on the other hand, in the early 2024, we are starting to do training of the trainers with teams in the field and started to do the survey in 2025. So I think maybe this is regards to, and maybe Octavia, I don't know if you need to clarify that, but what I think this is in relation to is the shift from Collect to Arena and exactly what countries what they can expect in this transition. What would be our recommendations from FAO and shifting to Arena? Like, should they continue with Collect Mobile? Maybe you could talk about that, Stefano.
Yes, if you want, you can continue with Collect Mobile and then start the migration to Arena step by step. Maybe you can start by migrating the survey, check that everything was there, and then you can import the data that you have collected with Collect Mobile into that survey. And you can do it only, you can also do it step by step. I mean, this data can be uploaded in step by step, so you don't need to do it all together. You can do import, for example, some records, then after one month you import some other records into Arena. So just to be ready to switch into Arena in this way.
So we're not creating an app to do that. No, just kidding. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for the questions. I think some are still coming in. Yes, Safi from Kenya Forest Services wrote us. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I really want to thank all of you, especially our panelists, for your time, especially Ashley, who's joining us at 1 a.m. from Alaska. Very much appreciated. And also our donor, the UK. Without that support, we couldn't make all of these improvements and share them with you. So really thank you. And thanks to the audience online and here in the room. If we didn't manage to answer your question during today's meeting, we will get around to answering the questions in writing in a follow-up to this webinar. And as I said earlier, I will be sure to share with you the recording of this session, as well as the presentations. And Stefano had put in the chat here links, I think his email addresses for additional sort of follow-up questions and the forum where you can also ask questions and give us valuable feedback as to the features that you would like to see. I've been taking screenshots of those conclusions from the panelists' presentations. They've been very, very useful. So thank you everyone once more for your time, and have a great day and a good night wherever you are. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Lauri.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Bye, Os. Thank you so much. Bye, Ramiro. Bye, Falguni.
Bye.
Ashley and Walter and Bruno, if you're still on the call, thanks again.